Begin Katan Daf, Mesech Moed Katan Daf begin on the top line of the Yomim. We continue to explain the halacha of a previous Mishnah regarding that of trapping different creatures on Chodesh Moed, which we explained the previous Daf. Ultimately, you have to fix the field a little bit when you're trapping them, you have to get rid of the stones. So there was discussion regarding where and when are you permitted to trap these creatures on Chodesh Moed. Our shiur corresponds because of Mecheskel, Tanitam Daf Amachayim. Appreciate you joining today's Daf. Even if you're in Iceland, you know where you are. We appreciate you joining us. Some of these we're going to discuss about are tzadnas seishus misteh ilin kedarka, whether it's permitted to trap mice in a field on Chol Moed in the normal way. Mekaran es apir tzibah when is it permitted to repair a breach in a wall on Chol Moed. Roinis nagoyim, when is it permitted to examine tzaras on Chol Moed? This depends on many factors regarding the mitzayra. Whether it is behez gerishon, a suspected mitzayra during his first week of isolation, behez gersheni, a suspected mitzayra for his second week of isolation, or muchlin, which is a confirmed mitzayra. The Tashma Shemitah, laws of the mitzayra regarding when is he forbidden to have marital relations, tzavsa de isha adifalei, or is it tzavsa de ama adifalei? We're going to find the machlekes whether being permitted to be with his wife is more important to him than leaving isolation, or the opposite, he'd rather be with other people than with his wife. But Kohen Tal Yamilsa, whether a Kohen has the right to decide if he's going to refrain from examining the tzaras, and whether he can actually even examine him, but refrain from declaring that he's actually tummy. We delay examining any person from the Goyim until after Yom Tov and until after the Sheva Brachas. We'll examine the Goyim by day, not by night. And Summa Pachas Me'enav, a Kohen who is blind to one eye is disqualified from examining the Goyim. So, we begin the Katan Daf, the Zayin, Mesech Moed Katan, top line of the Amid. The Mishnah had said, actually in our Mishnah the wording was actually the Chachamim, but the wording our Gemara brings is that it was, who is the Chachamim Yehuda Eimer. He said that you could trap Misteh Ha'ilon Kedarkai, you could trap these creatures, the mice and the mole, from an orchard, which is a field of trees, Kedarka in the normal way. Misteh Ha'lav and Shalei Kedarka, but from a green field where we had explained in the previous episode, it's not such a loss, so then you have to do it in an abnormal way, you have to do it as Shina. So the Gemara elaborates by quoting a brayso, says, Hanabban, Ketzad Kedarka, what does it mean trapping them in a normal way, which you said you're allowed to do for an orchard because by a tree it's going to be more of a loss. It's Chefer Guma, you dig a pit, V'teiluba Mitzuda, and you hang in it a trap, which, as Rashi Ksav says, that the creatures come through the pit and they get stuck in the trap. Now, Ketzad Shaloi Kedarka, what's an abnormal way of trapping them? What you do is Noid Shapud, you stick a spit, like a spear, where the area where these creatures are found. Umaka bakard them, and you hit it with a hammer. You like flatten the earth beneath, and you crush them beneath. That's another way of capturing them, but that's not the normal way of doing it. Kind of like the brayso of Shalazai, in which Tais is not sure, is this a third opinion, is this explaining Rabbi Yehuda, is this explaining the Rabbanan, but be that as it may, he says, when they said that it's from a grain field, you have to do it in an abnormal way, they only said this by a grain field which is near the city. So it's in its own area, so it's not going to be such a loss. You got to do it abnormally. But if let's say you have a grain field that's near a field of trees, then you can even do it in the normal way for the field of grain. Because maybe these mice and these moles are going to come out from the field of grain, and it's right next to the orchard, it's going to ruin the trees, so then again it has the same status as the field of trees, and you could capture them in the normal way. Now I said in the Mishnah, additionally, you could go ahead if there was a hole in the wall, you're allowed to repair the breach on Chodesh Moed. Now, the word mukadin sounds like that you could only do it in a inferior way. So it says the Gemara, how could you repair the breach? So Rabbi Yisrael says it's bohutza, you take the branches of a palm tree, the dafna, and the branches of a laurel tree, which essentially you make the wall out of the laurel trees, and you bind it together with the branches of the palm tree. That's how you repair the breach. Masnita and the brayso is taught differently, but also similar, that an inferior type of a repair is tsar b'tzrar. What you do is you put stones one on top of another, and you don't smear it with any plaster. So that's, again, how you repair the breach. Now, Amr Rav Chiz, he qualifies this halacha, and he says, Loishon, we didn't learn that the Mishnah said, Mekadin, you could only do an inferior type of repair, but you don't build it in the normal way. That's El Kais Lagina. That's only the wall of a garden. where it's not such a loss if people come in over there. But the wall of the courtyard, where your property is, your house is in that area, then by the kedarka, then you could build it in the normal way, because it would be a great loss if thieves could get into your property and it'd steal your money. So therefore, that you could do in the normal way, which Taisa points out from Rabbi Peretz that the halacha is like that the wall of the chutzner you can build in a normal place, but that's only if it's bordering the Rosh Hashanah. You have to be concerned about thieves. Well, let's say this is a wall that separates between your chutzner and another chutzner, then you wouldn't be able to build it in a normal way. It's only specifically on the half semeruba because it abuts to that of the Rosh Hashanah, and we're concerned for the thieves. Let's say the following brisa supports this qualification of that of Rav Chisda. Because the brisa says, if you have a wall that's tilting towards the public domain. So the halach is, Saiser, you could destroy the wall, Ubayna, you could build it, Kedarka in the normal way, which it's a wall of a courtyard, because that's the perimeter of a person's property that abuts that of Rosh Hashanah, which this supports Rav Chisda. You see, you're allowed to build it in the normal way, unlike the kaisel of the Gina, we said that you have to do it in the abnormal way. Here we see the kaisel of Chutz, you can do it in the normal way. And as the Brayz says, because of the danger, you have to destroy it because you don't want it to fall on anyone walking Rosh Hashanah. So you see, you could build it in the normal way. It says, no, Hasam Kediktani time. And there, of course you can build it in the normal way because it says in that sakana. That you can't just build a wall necessarily, like Rav Chisda, that you can build a wall of a courtyard in the normal way. It's only over there because we want you to demolish it.
To demolish it is to build it.
Exactly. So the Gemara is going to say that in the Ikar de Amri, that point. But now the Gemara is saying, we only let you do it in the normal way because there was a situation of danger. But regularly, if you just want to build a regular chutzner wall, who said we would let you do it in the normal way? Maybe we would let you only inferior. But Ikar de Amri, those that say, they wanted to say the opposite. Tashema, the Gemara says, let's bring a raya to this opinion of Chisda. The Brisa says, if you have a wall that's leading into the public domain, the halach is, you could demolish it and then rebuild it in a normal way. Because of danger, so the Gemara makes a deal. Yes, you're only allowed to do it the normal way because of danger. Not your question yet, but first a different point. Because of danger, yes. But if it's not because of danger, then you're not allowed to. It's actually maybe not only you're not supporting, it's actually refuting him because the Bryce is saying you're only allowed to build it, the wall of a courtyard in a normal way because of sakana. And Rav Chisda says, no, even without sakana, you're allowed to build it in a normal way because we're concerned for thieves. Seemingly, the Bryce refutes Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda will tell you, no, Hasam over there, that it's saying that it's because of a situation of danger. That's because it's actually allowing you to do two malachas. You're actually doing seiser ubayna. So when you demolish it because it's leaning, then we're telling you that you could still build it in the normal way. Over here, the Rebbe is saying that even if it's not dangerous, you can build it in the normal way. Is bayna b'loy seiser. It's building without demolishing, meaning it already had been demolished beforehand, but not that you're demolishing it on Chol Hashemayim, meaning only when there's sakana did we let you to do two malachas, to destroy and to build. So that's not a contradiction of Chisda, because Rav Chisda meant only building. Only building. It doesn't have to be a situation of danger. It could be even just that we're concerned for a thief. But to do two malachas, then we would have to have a situation of danger. But the Gemara says, okay, but Hasan Nami, there also, when the situation of danger, if you only want to let someone do one malacha, not two, so lister, so let him demolish the wall, like you were saying, because of danger, v'loy livni, and not to build, because the building has no element of danger. Why do you let him build it? Says the Gemara, an important psychological concept. Im Kain, if you're not going to let him build, mimni v'loy seiser, he's not going to, not so bad. He's not going to want to take it apart because you're not going to let him build it. So it's good. Then it's going to be a situation of danger. You have this many times in Psak, Halacha comes out time. We let because of what's going to be if we don't let. So similar to that concept. That so therefore we let him rebuild it. And again, when you're rebuilding it, you can do it in the normal way. The number of Ashi says Masnit Nami Dekin. He says a precise reading of our Mishnah seems to indicate, like Rav Chisda, that the halacha of our Mishnah that says you cannot build the wall in the normal way was only that of a garden. But that of a chutzner, you actually could build in the normal way. Because the Tanya Mishnah said like this. There's two halachas that we were saying in our Mishnayos over here, these in our parak. We're talking about the laws of Chol Hashemayim, and we're talking about that of the laws of Shemitah. Because they have similar halachas in certain contexts. So, although we said that regarding Chol Hashemayim, you cannot do it in a normal way. You can only do Mekadonis HaPiritzi. You can only repair, like an inferior repair for the breach. But we said, in the Shemitah here, no problem. You can build the wall in the normal way. So says the Gemara, wait a second, the Heicha. Where is this wall being built? Everything that Allah is talking about the wall of a courtyard, you have to say that you can build a wall in the courtyard. What's haste? What does that have to do with Shemitah? Shemitah has to do with where you have things that are growing, that it's agriculture. Your courtyard, that no one's planting anything. Rather, obviously, the Chiddush was saying that we're building the wall in the garden. And that's what we're saying. In the Shemitah, you let it build a normal way. And what's the Chiddush? Although it looks like you're making it to protect your produce, which that would be related to agriculture, and therefore maybe you're not allowed to do that. So that's what saying that no, you're allowed to. But that's what the other case of the Mishnah. But Chalash Hamayim, we're saying you're not build a normal way. Shemami, no, we can infer from there that the halacha of our Mishnah that you cannot do it in a normal way of a wall on Chalash Hamayim was that of a garden, because that's the parallel case of the Shemitah case, which obviously is talking about a garden. But if it was talking about Kaisel B'Chatzer, then Rav Chiz is correct, then you would be able to build it even Kedarka in Chalash Hamayim. So the halacha, the next Mishnah, continuing on the halachas of Chalash Hamayim. Rabbi Meir Oimi says the following interesting halacha. He says, Royiness in the Goyim. In other words, the Kayin, who, as the Gemara will explain, is the critical decider of a Negav Tzaras, he could check out someone's Negav Tzaras on Chalash Hamayim only if it's lahakal, to be lenient, to be mitar him, avaloy lahachmer, but not to be stringent. Meaning, if the Kayin sees, he goes, this is problematic, this looks like it's tummy, he's not going to say anything. Now, of course, if he would make him tummy, that comes out that he caused him to be in pain on the Moed, and the Torah tells you in the Ram Dazem, so the verse says, Remeir, look, take a look. If it's tar, say it's tar. Don't say anything. The sages, they disagree. They say, no. He doesn't take a look, not to be lenient, and not to be stringent. As the Gemara explains and elaborates Tanya as well in the Brisa. The Gemara brings that Remeir, he said, as we said in the Mishnah, he takes a look at the nega to see, to be lenient, but not to be stringent. Rabbi Yesi, he says, no, he's the Chacham of the Mishnah. He says, no, we don't take a look at all. Not to be lenient, not to be stringent. And he says why? Because if you're going to require him to take a look at it, if you want to possibly lenient on that person, then you're going to have to also require him to be stringent, because once he's taking a look, the Kohen has to say if he's tummy or if he's tar. So therefore, rather stay away. Stay away, don't look. Don't try to be lenient, because then you might be stringent. That's the Brisa. Now on that Amud Rebbe, Rebbe says, Nidin, and we're going to explain what this means on Amud Beis, but Rebbe says, from this machlekes, he says, I like one in one, and I like the other one in a different case. Nidin did Rebbe Meir, he says, I like what Rebbe Meir is saying, that you take a look, and that I hold of that b'muzgar, where it's only when he's a confined mitzvah, as we mentioned, there's 4 stages essentially that a mitzvah goes through, or potentially could go through. When he has something of a discoloration, so we don't know what it is, so we put him into quarantine. That's hezger. That's a confined. Now, let's say after week number 1, we still don't know what it looks like. We can't figure it out. We confine him for a second week. Now, depending what it is, if it's a person's body or the house, it could be up to 3 weeks, whatever. But for a person, it's 2 weeks. And then afterwards, we got to decide. It's either going to be tamei, and then he's obviously what's called muchlid. He's confirmed as a mitzvah. And if he starts talking on his merry way. Now, if he became a confirmed mitzvah, so then when the client comes to check up on him, when it's finally gone, so then he goes through what's called the Yomei Sefira, which are his Shivas Yomei Tahara, which he has to purify himself. And then after that, on day 8 is when he brings his karbanos. So that's the 4 stages of being confined week number 1, quarantine week number 2, confirmed as a mitzvah, and then days of counting of his Shivas Yomei Sefira that he has to count.
If he was not found to be a mitzvah,
right,
he's just because he was quarantined, then he needs to bring a korban.
Right, then he also has a tahara process. But the different, right, that's what that Mishnah in Megillah we had, Ein Bain, one of the Ein Bains was Ben Muzgur v'Muchlid. But Sepayda, we have certain things that are different between them. Now, so I'll upon him but we're going to say exactly what does it mean. It's actually Machlokes Rashi tells you what do we mean on this case. But when he's a confined mitzayra, then we'll take a look at it, because as we'll explain on the Beis, there's not going to be any chumras coming over here. There's not going to be any problems that you're going to run into. But the Rabbi Yasi, it appears the opinion of Rabbi Yasi that you don't take a look because it could come out of stringency. You might gain, but you might lose too. B'muchlet, by a confirmed mitzayra. So when someone is confined, you look, you see what's the story. He's in quarantine. What does he look like? But when he's a confirmed mitzayra, you won't look at it. Okay. But first, Amar Rabbi. That was the Bryce. Amar Rabbi, he comes to qualify this machlek. He says, bit tahar, someone that is currently tahar. So kulam lepegi, no one's going to disagree with lechazli. You're not going to take a look on chol shemayid if it's a problem, because he's in a good state right now. His status quo is he has a cheskes tara. We don't want to take a look because it can only make it worse. Behez Gerishin, when he's in the first week of quarantine, which, as the Mefarish explains, if you're going to be mitar him, kol kavod, he's going to have simchas yom tov. Doesn't have the tum of tzuras. If you're not mitar him, which the Mefarish explain what it means to say is that a place to discuss at this point that you don't have to be mitam him then. It's not like after week number 2 that you got to make a decision. He doesn't go, and there's no more quarantine. You have to decide, is he going to go into the confirmed status or tar status? After week number 1, you don't have to be matam him. He could go into quarantine for week number 2. So you're not going to be making him worse than he originally was. You're just quarantining for week number 2. So then says Rav, the kulam lepligi the chaslik. No one's going to disagree that you do take a look at him, because you're not going to make it worse. It only could get better. You could either become tar or just continue his quarantine, and he would have continued quarantine anyway. So those two cases, neither extreme, says Rabbi, no one disagrees.
When you quarantine in the second week, you're mechayev in the korban anyway.
What do you mean?
If you quarantine for the second week, at the end of the second week, even if he's not found to be a mitzvah, he's going to have to go through the process.
If he stays status quo, then he's going to. If it didn't expand,
But you already set him for the second week. Even if the second week you found it clear, he has to go through the process. So by setting up from week number 1 to week number 2, you definitely put him in a different stage.
Right, but he would have it anyway.
He is going in the end of the second stage, even if he's been found okay to go through a process.
And therefore what? I mean, but
therefore it's different than the end of the week first.
Right, but for Chol Moed, he's in his status.
For the Chol Moed,
yeah, right.
Not gonna change.
Right. That's our main point of it, because of the Samach B'Chagech, and we just want to keep him in the right. So he says, keep ligi. When do they disagree if we continue the Beis? Is behezger shein. The machlekes is when it's quarantine week number 2. It's amazing how that word was. No one even knew what the word meant even before COVID. But right, that you have to then after week number 2, you have to choose either tumah or tahara. Now, if you're going to be mitame him, so what you're doing right now is you're actually confirming him with a more severe level of tumah, because you're making him into mitzvah muchlet. You're turning him into confirmed mitzvah, which has a higher level of severity, and you're going to be causing him pain. That's where they have the machlekes. Ray says, no problem, just take a look. If you see tar, be matar. If not, don't say anything. Ray says, no, you can't do that. You have to choose. You have to quarantine week number 2. There's no more quarantine. Either he's tahar or he's tameh. So you might make it worse for him. So then don't take a look. That's the case that they disagree about. Now, so the Gemara explains, Mar Meir that holds that you do take a look, but only to be lenient, to be matame, not to be matame. What does that mean? Because Sabah he holds b'koyin tali milser. It's dependent on the koyin. If he's matame, it becomes tamei. If he doesn't want to be matame, he's not tamei. So therefore, he can take a look as lenient, but not to be stringent. And that is itar. If he's tar, somebody tar, I'll tell me you're tar. Be tummy, if he's tummy, Shasik will just be quiet. He won't say anything, and he won't become tummy. But a Mar Risi who says, no, you're not even going to take a look even to be lenient, because with me you could gain, you could be mitar him. No, because he holds, it says in Mayikra, litar letamiksid. It says, the pasuk says, Kohen takes a look to purify or to make him impure, which is when the Kohen sees that he's tummy, he cannot be silent. And maybe he's going to be tummy, it comes that you're going to be causing him pain, because you make him tummy on the Moed, so therefore, look, there's a high risk factor over here that you can make things worse. Don't sheval tasa, don't do anything, because he doesn't hold the grenade that the kohen has the volition to not say anything, because of l'tar makes it. That's how Rabbah qualifies the machlekes. Now, going back to the Bryce that we quoted, Amamar, we said, the master said in the Bryce that Amar Rebbe said, it appears the opinion of Rabbi Yossi that you will not take a look because of the potential loss that you're going to lose out, that you make him worse, when he's a confirmed mitzvah. But it appears the opinion of Rabbi that you will take a look because you won't lose out the musgar when he's a confined mitzvah. Says Gemara, I will in the Bryce exact opposite. That Rebbe holds up the opinion of Remeir that you do take a look by muchlet when he's confirmed, and the opinion of Rabbi Yossi that you don't take a look by musgar, by a confined mitzvah. So that's how do we resolve that contradiction of how Rebbe appears, how he likes which opinion in which case. So actually, the Gemara has a fascinating answer regarding human emotion and the sociology and relationships. So he says, Tanoi hi al libed Rebbe, right? So machlekes Tanoim in Rebbe, which helps qualify us in the ramifications of this machlekes Rebbe Rabbi Yossi, as follows. Mar, the Tana, the second brisa, who said Ibcha, who said that Rebbe holds that he likes the opinion of Meir that you do take a look when he's a confirmed mitzvah, and he likes the opinion of Rabbi Yossi that you don't take a look by musgar when he's in quarantine. That's because that opinion of Rebbe holds Savsa di Alma Odefle. He prefers companionship of society. He wants social relationships. And therefore, b'mechelutai, when he's a confirmed mitzvah, you're going to take a look like Reb Meir. Why? Because even if you're going to be mitame him, you're not going to make him tameh more than he was originally. He's already a confirmed mitzvah. If you're going to be mitar him, great. You can make him happy, because what happens is when the mitzvah is mitzvah muchlet, he has to be sent out of the three machnas. If you're going to mitar him, so he's allowed to come back into Machni Yisrael. So he has tzavs to the Alma. He has his shul friends. He has his neighbors. He has all his rat pack. He has got everyone he wants. Now, even though actually then, when he's mitar from being mitzvah muchlet, he's going to be forbidden to have marital intimacy with his wife. But that's what he says, tzavs to the Alma adifle. According to this version of Rabbi, a person would prefer social companionship than his intimate relationship with his wife. Now, therefore, by mitzvah muchlet, we're, again, matama we're not concerned for, because you're not making him more so than what he was, he's already muchlet. But the question arises, but now that you're going to, in the other option of making tahar, you're gonna lose in one, you're gonna gain something else. You're gaining that now he could come to shul, he could have all his friends, he can go hang out, but he's not going to be intimate with his wife. Which takes discussion from Rashi that sounds like that what the status of muchlet is regarding marital intimacy. Sounds like it's permitted, but I'll upon him. But by when he's in the days of svira, he's actually forbidden, as the Gemara will prove this right away, is forbidden in marital intimacy.
But he doesn't have any tumor of the day of svira?
What?
He doesn't have any tumor of the day of svira?
No, I mean he's permitted to come into Machne Yisrael. It doesn't have to be chutz l'gimel machnas.
He's a metame, but if he touches another person, is a metame?
I'm saying it wouldn't make a difference anyway. He's allowed to come in. There's a halacha b'meichiluta that he has to be out of the three machnas.
Yes.
Now he doesn't have to. Now you could be with everyone else. So therefore, Rebbe says I prefer that of Remeir b'meichiluta. But he likes the opinion of Rabbi Yossi by musgar, who is in quarantine. Then you don't take a look. Because there, what's going to happen is, if it turns out that you have to be machlit him, that you have to make him a confirmed mitzvah, that means you got to send him out of three machnas. He's not going to have social companionship anymore. That's going to cause him too much pain. So therefore, then you don't take a look. That's the Tana of the second brisa. Umarsa, the Tana of the first brisa holds Salsa the Ishta Difale. No, a person would rather prefer this. It would be a very contentious Gemara if the women were learning this Gemara about which one does a man prefer more. The time of the first brisa says that they prefer the companionship of the wife. Oh, okay, now we can understand the inverse opinion of the time of the first brisa. And that's why Rebbe said, I like Reb Meir, that you take a look on Chalosh Moed by Hezger, by Mitzvah Musger, which is by the second quarantine. Why? Because if you're going to make him tar, great. he's going to be happy because he's tar. And even if you're going to make him tameh, and now you're going to take him from mitzvah musku to make him into mitzvah muchlet, and you have to send him out to be machnas, he doesn't care for social relationships. I mean, even though he's not going to have that, he's still not going to be in pain because he has his wife's company. And he's permitted to be secluded with his wife in the days of his confirmed mitzvah status. So therefore, says Rebbe, I like Remeir by mitzvah musger. Because, great, if I'm tameh, who cares? I still have my wife. Even though now I can't be with anyone else in shul. And this is probably what happened by COVID. Probably this machlek is the two versions of Rebbe. Some people show my got better, some got worse. Depends if it's tzavs the alma difulei, tzavs the ishta difulei. They're like, okay, I don't care not what anyone else. And they're like, no, this is not what I wanted. And he liked the opinion of Rabbi Yesi by mitzvah muchlet that you don't take a look. Why? Because even if you're going to be matar him from his tzaras, so what? So now you're going to put him to come to Machne Yisrael? No, he's going to be in pain. Because now he's not going to have his wife's companionship because he's forbidden to her. Because once you matar him from his chilute, from his confirmed mitzvah status, as the Gemara is going to explain right now, he has to count 7 days of Sfira. And during his days of Sfira, of counting 7 clean days, he's forbidden in marital intimacy. As our Gemara is going to bring from V'yashem L'chos Oleh Shabbos Yom, Oleh is his wife, like it says, Shubachem L'Aleichem. So interesting, fascinating, that's the machlekes of these two versions of Rebbe, inversely related. Which one does he like, Rebbe, which one does he like Rabbi Yisi, is dependent on what does a person prefer. Does a person prefer the companionship of his wife or the companionship of the society? And those are flipped when you go from muskir to muchla or muchla to that of tara status, and therefore that's how the machlekes shtel zechayis in the two versions of Rebbe. But it says the Gemara, remember, is that to say the muchla mutter b'tash mashamita? Because that's what you tell me. You tell me that a confirmed mitzvah, the reason why it would change going either from muskir to muchla or from muchla to the days of Sfira is that he's permitted with his wife. So I don't care if I was mitzvah muskir and I make mitzvah muchla according to that version because I can still be intimate with my wife. In fact, I'm not going to be able to be with other people. Great, I don't care. I don't care about tzavs. I'm not care about tzavs. Again, whichever version it is, but it sounds like that mitzvah muchla is permitted with marital intimacy. Says, and yes, but Tanya, as we learned in the Brisa, says, the pasuk says in Vayikra that for his days of tahara, meaning after he's finished with his days of tzaras, the halach is v'yashem mechutz ha'oleh shabbos yom. He has to sit out of his oil for 7 days, which tells us she'asa b'tashma shabita that is forbidden in marital intimacy. Where do you see that? Because when it says he has to be out of his tent, it's a reference to his wife. Shnemak says the pasuk in Devarim that Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu after Matan Torah that although Hashem made them separate from their wives 3 days before, go tell them they could go back to their tent, meaning they could go back being intimate with their wives. Yehuda maybe it's a different source. The pasuk in Yechezkel says Shivas Yomim Yispiru Loi. For 7 days they should count for him, which teaches Yemei Sefiroi. Only the days of counting for Tahara, then you're forbidden in marital intimacy. But V'lo Yemei Chilutai. So he learns out a special source that teaches us that specifically only during the days of Sfira, but not the days of when you're confirmed Mitzayra. And therefore that's how you see that yes, a man is permitted to be marital intimate with his wife on the days of his confirmed Mitzayra status. But Rabbi Yehuda, he disagrees. He says, no, Zayin Yemei Sefiroi, yes, the 7 days of counting, and for sure for the days of Chiluta, because if anything, Mitzayra is the highest form of Mitzayra during his days of confirmed status. If you're not be intimate during the days of Sfira, for sure you're not be intimate during the days of confirmed status. That's what Tais explains that why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda agree, as the Gemara explains also shortly why, because it doesn't necessarily agree that it would be a kavochem, because maybe some type of a percho, or maybe mitzvah is a chiddush. But v'amar b'chiyah, he says, Danti lefnei Rabbi, he says, I was qualifying as a run of my teacher who holds like the Tanna Kama. L'madatein Rabbeinu, our teacher, you taught us, Yoisam l'hoy le'izyu, Uziyahu. Uziyahu HaMelech gave birth to Yoisam. It's obvious that it was Ele b'mei chilutai. It was only during the days when he was a confirmed mitzayr. In other words, it has to be that, until it goes through the cheshbon, that the mother of Yoisam conceived from his father, Uziyahu, must have been when he was a confirmed mitzayr. And he obviously was not able to be with her during the days of Sfira, and it must have been during Mechilutai. So Malay says, yes, he says, I say the same thing. A Mitzvah is permitted in marital intimacy, because this says Allah is only based Sfira, is only during the days of counting, but during the days of Chilutai, it's permitted. So it's a machlekes tanoim if it's permitted in Mechilutai. So Gemara said, what are they disagreeing about? So Rabbi Shloimy he holds that both are forbidden the days of Sfira and the days of Chilutai. It's because the Torah is telling you that he has to be away from his wife during the days of counting. But Kolshkin Mechilutai, and for sure, the more so as a couple chaimer, when you're confirmed it's there, for sure you cannot be intimate with the wife. Marsa, Rabbi Yehuda held that no, what it revealed, it revealed, what it didn't reveal, it didn't reveal. And therefore it says specifically Yemei Sefirai to tell you, but not Yemei Chilutai. And therefore that's like we said before, as our Gemara wanted to interpret that Rebbe held like that was the Tanakama, that there's differences in the Yemei Chilutai and the Yemei Tahara, let's say, that regarding the status of marital intimacy, and therefore we said that's going to be the difference between the two different versions of Rebbe, which one he prefers, again depending if a person prefers social or marital relationships, and that's because you could be maritally intimate in the Mechiluta, but you cannot be maritally intimate during the May of Sfira, as we said according to at least one Mandama. Now, the Gemara now goes back to what we mentioned before and asks, both according to Meir and Rabbi Yossi, which are the two opinions in our Mishnah and recorded in the Brisa, Meir said explicitly that even if the person's tummy that you saw, you could be quiet. Rabbi Yossi says no, don't look at all. But the inference is, Rabbi Yossi holds, that if a person doesn't want to, he doesn't have to look. And then the person's not going to be tummy. It says the Gemara, remember, is that to say the Kohen telling Mr. Kamai? Everyone knows this is tziras. It's dependent on the Kohen. He could choose if he wants to say it or if he wants to look. Says the Gemara, yes. What time does we're learning the Brisa? Plus says in Yikra, says, Uvayoim hedois boy. And the day that the Kohen sees that person's raw flesh, which is a sign of a nega, so Yitma is going to be tummy. Now what does it mean, Uvayoim? To tell you, and Taisa explains that it's the extra vav, is yesh yom shater that to tell you that there are days that you're going to see and take a look. Yesh yom shater there are going to be days that you're not going to take a look. Plus haste. From here they said, chasen shenel by nega. If you have a groom, chasen during Sheva brachas, that he develops a nega. We give him the 7 days of festivities, what we call the Sheva brachas, that we don't take a look because he might make him tummy. So we don't look at loy at him, or the base over his house, or the ksus over his garment, to see, oh, wait a second, is there a neg in his garment because then he's going to lose his chasen suit. No, we don't take a look at any of these things. We give him the whole week off not to look. Because like we said, some days we'll look, some days we're not. So too on the Yom Tov. We give you the 7 days of Yom Tov. That's the Rabbi Yehuda. Now Rabbi Yomi says, no, in itself, you don't need this pasuk. Because I have a better source. It says in Yikra, the Kohen commands, anytime you see a neg in the house, and they first clear out the house, because if you're going to declare the house tamei, you have things inside that are now going to become tamei from tumas oil of the nega in the house. So he says first kindaros, first get everything out, and then we're going to make it tamei. So it says Rabbi imam shows if we wait from being metame for a voluntary element where we wait and we're not metamet until you cleared all the vessels from the house. So from there we learn out that also regarding a person's body, we could also wait for Dvar Rishos. Similar to over here, we're not going to go ahead and necessarily be metame him, because we find that by Tumah of the body, we wait for Dvar Rishos. So Kol can all the more so that we're going to wait for Dvar Mitzvah. For example, like a chasna, or like what we're discussing on Yom Tov. You're not going to take a look. You don't have to come on to a pasuk of Uva Yoim. You have it from this classic halacha of the neg of the bayis that you always wait. So if you're waiting for Dvar Rishos, which are just a guy's pots and pans, for sure you're going to wait for Dvar Mitzvah like V'smach B'chagecha. Says Imam Maibad, now what's in between these two opinions of Yehuda and Rebbe? They seem to be both saying the same thing. So Mabai says, Mashmos Darshanik B'nayu. It's just the understanding of where you darshan it from. One darshan from this pasuk, one darshan from that pasuk. Rav Ami says, no, there is a difference between them. The difference between them is regarding a volitional, regarding a neutral element, as follows. Rabbi Yehuda, who learns it out from Ubayom Herois Boy, and from here we say that, certain days you look, certain days you won't, because of chasen and on the Yom Tov, which is a mitzvah, then we will wait. But for a Dvar HaRishos, we will not delay when it's a tumah of a person's own body. Because although we bring a source of waiting for tumah of a bias, that doesn't tell us regarding a person's body. So Ubayim, if you learn from Yomei Roisba, they only tell us certain auspicious days you're going to wait for tumah the gufay, which is Yom Tiv, which is a Chasen. But Rebbe, who learns out from that for Dvar Shus you're going to wait, so then Rebbe would hold that tumah of the guf is the same thing, that you would also wait, as we learned from tumah of the bias, even for Dvar Shus. So the nafkamina would be regarding a Dvar Shus. As the Gemara explains this, Rabbi Yehuda, who holds not like Rebbe, so why not? Because Mahasim Ligamin, you cannot learn out from the vessels in a house that potentially has a nega. Because the Chidishu, because the halacha of tziras of a house is a novelty. And therefore, what we say throughout Shas, you cannot learn out from a novel halacha, because wherever there's a Chiddush, what's called Ein Dava Be'el Chidushay. We only know the novelty of this thing, you can't compare it to other cases. What's the Chiddush of a neg of a house? As you continue to Chesed Ben Alf, because generally when you just have what's called Pshuti Kliyetz, when you have flat wooden vessels, the halacha generally is that lo mitame, but not mitame. But over here regarding the oil of a nega, mitame, there will be mitame, which place says not even just wood and stone, even other types of cases, generally they're not, they can be mitame, so if it's a chiddush. So you can't learn out from the halachas of the stringencies that we have regarding a nega, or leniencies even for that matter, of the of a house with which Tais discusses that we can compare a chiddush of chumrah and kula, but upon them we see it's a chiddush. So who said that we're going to say that this that we wait by a neg of a house would apply also for the neg of a guf? Maybe neg of a bayis you wait because that's a chiddush, but neg of a guf maybe you wouldn't wait for dvar rishus. But the Rebbe would tell you, in other words, even though he learns out tumah of the guf from a tumah that's not of the guf, for even the dvar rishus from the pasuk of the tziva kohen, which is that the kohen says we're going to wait for that bayis until all the vessels are out. Still, itzrich, you need the other pasuk that Rabbi Yehuda brought of B'yem Herois by, that some days you're going to look at it and some days you're not, meaning that you're going to wait. Why? Because he says you need both psukim. Because if the Torah had only written and on the day that she sees it, which sounds like some days yes, some days not, Havmin I would have said, like we explained for Rabbi Yehuda, L'dvar mitzvah, only for mitzvah purpose you're going to wait for a person's tumas haguf, like on the Yom Tiv or on the Chasen, L'dvar Rosh Hashanah, something voluntary, something that's not a mitzvah, then no. Because of one Tzibah Kohen, if you have to write, as Rebbe had explained, from that point of Tzibah Kohen, you wait even for the Varashas. Now, but, here's the main point. Because of one of Tzibah Kohen, had you only written Tzibah Kohen, I mean, I would have said, like Rabbi Yehuda said, Hani in, only by a bias that you're going to wait for the Varashas. The love tumah the gufa, because it's not a tumah of the body. Of a tumah the gufa, but if it's a tumah of the body, I would say that no, you got to take a look at it. Because we're not going to learn out tumah of the body from something that's a tumah not of the body for dvar rishos from a tziva kohen. Because I would have said, like Rabbi Yehuda says, that no, it's a chiddush by tumah the bias. That's why you need a ubiyim herdois by, which is tumah of the guf, that you do wait for a dvar mitzvah now. So therefore, since we find that you will wait for a tumah of a guf, at least for dvar mitzvah, this is how Rebbe is different than Rabbi Yehuda. So therefore, then we also have the ability to learn that from a tziva kohen that we're going to wait for the tumah of the guf for a dvar rishos also, even though it's a chiddush. The Ritzricha, if you needed to have both psukim, that's where the difference is. That according to Rava, that dvar rishos is going to be the difference between that of Rebbe and Rabbi Yehuda, where according to Rabbi Yehuda, you don't see that from the pasuk of B'yam Baros, but we only would know it for dvar mitzvah by tumas shebeguf, because although by tumas shebebayis you see with dvar rishos, but there's a chiddush over there. That says Rebbe, that's what I need both psukim for. Yes, I have a pasuk that's telling you that you wait for dvar rishos, but that's by bias. How do you know this is going to be by guf? Because I have another pasuk that shows by guf you do it. Yes, but that by guf is talking about dvar mitzvah. Yes, but once I see by dvar haguf, you will wait, even the dvar mitzvah. Now I can then apply it over here by that of bias, that even though it's a dvar shus, you'll also be able to push it off and delay. That's the difference between those. Abai holds no mashmas darshan, and Rabbi says no. That's going to be the case of difference between doing them. Thank you to any time for hosting us.